Hello and welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. I'm Shereen Bhan and we're coming to you from the NASSCOM Leadership Forum in conversation with Ginni Rometty, the Global CEO of IBM. Ginni, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. You've made a special visit here to India, specifically for NASSCOM as it celebrates its 25th anniversary. The mood here, though, is a bit somber on the back of what President Trump may or may not do and how it could impact the Indian IT industry. What's your own assessment of what the mood is like?
I think the mood is somewhat optimistic about how all technology can impact both India and the world. And in fact, actually, I sense a mood about a readiness to move to, call it Chapter 2, meaning India has spent a far amount of time, and many of the companies here, digitizing, and still more to do, but digitizing themselves, and that there's a great opportunity to go to the next level. And that's actually what I came to talk about, which was something called the cognitive era, and that digital is a foundation. And the next step for many companies is going to be to become cognitive, the use of artificial intelligence to make every decision they make better. So a lot of optimism about that.
At the World Economic Forum, unemployment as well as underemployment was among the top 5 business risks identified. So, you know, all kinds of reports with all kinds of numbers on what AI and automation could actually mean as far as jobs are concerned. You know, what is your own assessment and evaluation?
Well, a number of factors are getting rolled in here, in that actually, if you look in almost every country, there are a number of job openings that are available, but the people don't have the skill. And that's why this topic always goes back to having skill. And with every new era of technology, you've watched the introduction, and then that meant a new set of skills had to be built. I mean, I was saying to someone, you go back in the time when people farmed, and then when machinery came in, people had to learn to read. And then there were whole sets of education around reading. And then when you saw the industrial age, vocational schools came up. And now with whatever this age will be called in retrospect, we'll have to bring data into everyone's career and everything that they do. And there'll be a new set of education. And so I always say the issue isn't that whether there's jobs, it's having the skills to fill them. Even in India, I saw a report last night that said 56% of employers can't find people with the right skill. So to me, the answer is really getting at the root of it with education. And this idea that where new collar came from, it's not about what is traditionally called blue collar manufacturing, white collar professional. No, these new collar is something new to move toward. And as I'm seeing it, and our experience has been, education-wise level, you don't necessarily have to have a university degree to bring these kind of technologies into everything that you do. You could take a 4-year high school, middle school, extend it 2 years, and we've got 100 of these schools around the world going on now. And industry just says, this is a curriculum that if you teach this kind of curriculum, I can hire. And so they influence, and then they also provide mentors. And we've had a fantastic set of results coming out of these schools. They're not just the United States, it's Australia, Korea, South Africa, other countries in the world starting. It's almost viral, catching on. And that's what I think is a wonderful opportunity here. You have a very large university system in India, but it has varying degrees of kind of education degrees that come out of it. And I think as you look through that, there's a segment of that if we improved the curriculum, it really would make a difference for hiring. And my view, what this does, new collar, it takes a whole set of people into the middle class that maybe would not have otherwise had a chance to be in the middle class.
Since we're talking about India, let me ask you about the opportunity that you see here in India. You know, India has been, for IBM, one of the bright spots. I think if I look at your numbers, at least as far as 15-16 were concerned, you've crossed about $3 billion in terms of revenue. What is the outlook as far as the India business is concerned today? We've got lots of programs being launched by the government. IBM is participating in some of those smart cities and digital India and so on and so forth. Where does India stack up today?
India's a very important country for us. We're a global company, and as I look at India, it's a microcosm of all of IBM. So inside of India, you'll find research centers, development centers, our service centers. You'll find, we have a cloud center here. We were the first cloud that came into India. And so it is all of IBM in one country. It's really one of the few countries in the world that has the total footprint here, and it's an important citizen in helping us bring innovation to the world and innovation into India. And the third dimension that we've worked in, it's really why when we launched our cloud here, to help bring a developer platform to many of the developers in India, to help them come into B2B business and how to scale a business. And so that is why we brought the IBM Cloud here. You've got a huge, in 2020, you'll have the biggest population of developers in the world. And we think we can play a huge role in helping bring them and bring all of that technology to small, medium business that's out there. So it's a bright spot not only for the innovation that it brings to the rest of the world. Blockchain development is done here, product development is done here. We've got the cloud here, we've got Watson here, so quite a bit. And so not only innovation for the world, but then the innovation that's here, whether it's with Vodafone or Bharti, or whether it is with IDEA in financial services, whether it is with Yes Bank, I see it in industrial here, Mahindra, quite a lot of opportunity here as well, cross-industry.
What does that then translate into as far as numbers are concerned?
Because well, hopefully good numbers. Yeah.
What, 10% plus kind of growth rates? So what are you anticipating?
I'm going to keep pushing these guys to grow as fast as they can here.
But does the view on India change in any manner because of what we're seeing happen in the US with President Trump? I mean, there's this anti-outsourcing rhetoric. There are these bills that have been moved. We don't know whether finally they will be taken forward or not. We don't have clarity yet on what happens as far as the H-1B visa is concerned, whether there will be changes. Does the view on India change in this context at all?
Well, it certainly doesn't change our view on India. And I think, the idea of jobs, that isn't, and the reason it doesn't, it's not a new concept. There isn't a country that I go into that the first discussion with the Prime Minister of any country is about jobs. And that is important to every country. So I see no difference from that perspective. And for India, the skills that we've built here are so vibrant and their use across the world. I don't see an impact. What we do here is dependent on the kind of client and the value that we bring to clients, and that's both in India and around the rest of the world.
But this rise of protectionism, and I understand that national priorities mean getting more jobs on the ground, but this rise of protectionism, deglobalization, this is for real now. You're part of President Trump's Business Advisory Council, and you've chosen to continue. There are some who've decided to exit. And you've said, and I quote you, that our experience has taught us that engagement, reaching out, listening, and having authentic dialogue is the best path to good outcomes. Do you sense that the administration is open to what you're saying about how this could impact U.S. businesses if the visa regime, for instance, were to become a lot more anti-outsourcing, if I could call it that?
Well, I really believe, and this is experienced in 170 countries in the world, that engaging on these issues everywhere, because whether it's in Europe around privacy and the movement of digital data and data across borders, or whether it is about jobs or immigration, I mean, these are really important policy points that happen around the world. And engagement is the best way to solve them. And a dialogue is how you find a solution. And it's you really focus on what. And so I do believe
but do you sense an
a company
openness?
like, there's absolutely an openness to listen to feedback on what industry needs and what it wants. And so that to me is an important role we can play on a world stage, whether it's in the United States or other countries as well, by the way, on the importance of these kinds of things. And so I think as you think about, you mentioned the comment about protectionism around the world, I want to link it to how our conversation started. Some of this becomes because there are issues about people who have and have not. Is there equality? They are all linked together. And if you link why that happens, goes back to education and skills. And so if you really want to work on the root of this problem, which is why I'm so focused on jobs and education, that's what you have to work on. You have got to work on education in all these countries, because all those stitches are linked together that take you back to this being a healthy, globalized world that we live in. And that to me is the best world, a globalized world where you take innovation and skills and they move freely across the world. Innovation, skills, and people.
So what is the outlook then as far as 2017 is concerned in terms of demand, in terms of spending? The US economy on a strong wicket at this point in time. Europe is also gradually on the path to recovery. What is your own sense in terms of the demand environment?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of hope. that where there are inhibitors in many parts of the world, they'll be removed. So if an inhibitor, if you construct that as either a tax or a regulatory environment that has been difficult, that there'll be some movement on that, and that will allow for more creativity, or that there is an enabler, and some of that could be tax reform as an example, that would then allow people to reinvest. And I see people looking for inhibitors to be removed, enablers to be put in place in every government around the world. And so some optimism that to be able to move forward to another chapter.
So the plan for investing in India on track, the
on track for us.
Appetite for investing in India on track?
On track for us, yes.
What would concern you today as a CEO with operations across 100-odd countries? What would concern you today?
Well, when you operate across 170 countries, you do learn that things don't always move at the same pace. And so concern is to be able to continue to have the free flow of ideas and people, because that is really the best way to drive innovation.
And do you believe that this could be the big challenge facing businesses?
I think the bigger challenge facing most businesses is their ability to reinvent themselves. And so I think that's the environment most companies, this is a very interesting era. These technology changes, you know, we're used to a past that maybe there's one technology change at any one point in time. There are multiple changes right now, and their pace is faster than ever before. So I know every conversation I have with one of my colleagues, it's about how to transform. They'll look at us and they'll say, gee, you've done this now, so what are all your lessons learned over this? You know, at 105 years old, we're the only technology company that's reinvented itself. And today I look at IBM, and today it is a cognitive solutions and a cloud platform company. And today now already, Watson has become the AI platform for business, and the IBM cloud is the enterprise cloud. So I look back and we'd reinvented ourselves into services, into software, and now we've reinvented ourselves one more time. That to me is the topic everyone's talking about.
It's interesting that you talk about reinvention, because the theme here at NASSCOM is reimagine and not just re-engineer. So people who are looking at the kind of disruption that's taking place and how do you reinvent yourself, what would your advice be?
I always, there's a couple things I've learned from the past. One is that do not protect your past. And the second is, and I think this applies in India, don't define yourself as a product. And as a product, there's any one thing. If you define yourself as a solution, you'll free yourself up to be able to reimagine your business.
Ginni, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time, and we hope that we see you back in India.
Thank you.